Happy Saturday, good people. Welcome to another edition of Double the Innocence with your boy E-Dub. Gem dropper and a definite showstopper. Now. I want to be one of the first people to thank PK Subban for his masterful take on exactly where sports are right now in 2025. As a fan of sports, period, thank you very much, PK Subban. Because it's one thing when you have us out here as content creators calling out the BS that we see mainstream media avoiding to touch. It's one thing. I mean, because people say, oh yeah, who are you guys? What have you guys ever done? Fine. No problem. But when you have somebody that's actually gotten to the highest peak of his level in his craft, that's a pretty well-known individual in that set craft, and you're able to come out and call BS on crafts, period, I don't know about anybody else, but I have nothing but respect for that. And the reason why I'm taking this time to thank PK Subban is because, you know what? It's a breath of fresh air. It was something we thought that was totally lost from mainstream media. And you've just rejuvenated all of that. Any individual that really likes sports, I'm not talking about LeBron James fans. I'm talking about individuals that really appreciate sports and everything that sports has to offer, agrees with your take 100%. PK Subban, I think I must have shared your take with about 20 different people, because it was a message that needed to be heard. And if I could think of 20 more people, I'm going to share it with 20 more people. Why? Because it's a message that needs to be heard. And no, it doesn't need to be heard from us individuals like you guys say, us nobodies on YouTube or social media on a whole. It needs to be heard from people of your own peers. Yes, sirree, Bob. I'm going to say it again. It needs to be heard from individuals who've actually done it. Now, let me put it this way. I know for a fact that we're going to have the LeBron James fans out there that are going to be very, very upset with PK Subban's take on the whole thing, because if you take the time to listen to exactly what he was saying, you know exactly who he's directed his messages to. And for those of you guys who may be living under a rock and have no idea what I'm talking about, PK Subban gave an honest take about exactly where the level of, especially the NBA, is. He put it in comparison with hockey players. And let me be one of the first people to tell you, as an individual that never played one game of organized hockey, I could sit here and tell you that hockey players are probably the closest thing to gladiators right now in terms of competition and the competitive nature. When I was a kid, when I was younger, the Chicago Blackhawks were going for the Stanley Cup. They were going to win their first Stanley Cup, and that's when they had the young Jonathan Taves. They had well, you have an idea of what team I'm talking about. That Chicago Blackhawks team. And I remember their defenseman, Duncan Keith, I believe his name was. Because I liked that team at that particular point in time. They were a young team. I want to see the young team win. In the final game, or in the game they needed to win to finally win the Stanley Cup, I saw Duncan Keith. It must have been probably in the second period or something like that. He took a slap shot in the mouth. Now, saw him cover up his mouth, skate off the ice, and left a trail of blood. It looked bad. Rest of the second period, Duncan Keith was out. He was gone. Second period, intermission. And while I'm watching the third period, I said, wait a second. Is that Duncan Keith back out on the ice? That totally surprised me because, like I said, it's not like he just got hit with a stick. He took a slap shot in the mouth. Needless to say, the Chicago Blackhawks ended up winning the Stanley Cup that particular year. So, you know, all the players on the ice, they're holding up the Stanley Cup over their head the whole bit. And now they're starting to interview the players. I saw them go to Duncan Keith. And, you know, they were talking about, you know, like at that time his mouth was all messed up the whole bit or whatever the case may be. But yeah, he just won the Stanley Cup, excited. Duncan Keith basically said, when he left the ice after he took that slap shot, he was in the back. They were operating in his mouth because one of his tooth got lodged in the back of his throat. So they were operating back there to take all that out. But this man was back on the ice for the third period. Now, as an individual, I can honestly tell you, as somebody that had the opportunity to play organized basketball in my younger days, I could honestly tell you, I've seen individuals twist their ankle, not sprain, twist their ankle and sit out for the rest of the game. I've seen this. Now, understandable, we're not playing at a professional level. I understand that. But that competitive nature is developed from somewhere. Do you think that Duncan Keith just felt on that particular day that nothing was going to stop him from being on the ice? Or do you think that that's just a culture that was created to him ever since he laced up his skates? And from that day, I had the world of respect for hockey players where that was concerned, where toughness was concerned, because you got to understand, these are the guys. Now they've watered it down a little bit, but back when I was growing up, these were the guys that were fighting on ice, that were checking on ice, that were going 100 miles per hour on ice. And they were playing this sport all year round because they would play their regular season, and then after their season, they'd be playing for their countries all year round. How could you not respect those type of athletes? So you know what? If there's any athletes that's going to question the toughness about a sport, no matter what sport it is, hockey players have all that right to talk and all that right to express how they feel if they feel they're seeing weakness in a sport. Hockey players can afford that. Football players could afford that. Unfortunately, basketball players have to stay far away from that right now. Basketball players are more or less in the same type of category as professional soccer players with the theatrics, with the throwing of the hands. Okay, it's gotten a little bit better, but they're more interested in giving you that type of show instead of actually just putting everything, laying everything on the line. There's not one statement that PK made that wasn't 100% factual. There wasn't one statement that PK Subban made that I didn't 100% agree with. And you know what? The funny thing about it is, I mean, like I said, the only thing you're probably going to get from some of the disgruntled NBA players is a little bit of hatred at the fact of the matter that they're being called out on their BS. But if anybody wants to sit down and really analyze what came out of PK Subban's mouth, they will have no choice but to a man look in the mirror and admit that he was talking nothing but 100% facts. And that new generation, the King James version of what the NBA is right now, you guys are solely responsible for the condition that it's in. And you guys can make whatever excuses you want to make about, the format of the All-Star game now, including new players that haven't really proved anything in the league. Once again, we don't want to hear about your belly aching, because you guys are the reason why this stuff is taking place. Like PK Subban said, what exactly are you guys playing for? It's not about the money. You guys are making all the money. Versus the salaries that the NHL players are making, you guys are making crazy money. But why is it that hockey players are able to play with that type of passion that's needed? Because that's the culture they created since before you and I. And even though the game has changed a little bit, where back in when I was younger, it was much more of a defensive-minded game, where you had a lot of games that finished 3-1 or 3-2. You know, one of the stuff that the NHL did address was more offense. But look at the way in which they did it. They didn't take away from the defense in order to create more offense. They made certain modifications to the game in order to make the game more exciting. So they never once ruined their game. If anything, all they've done is enhance their game. Do you know how many basketball players were watching that Four Nations finals the other night? Do you know how many football players, how many volleyball players, how many soccer players were watching the Four Nations the other night? Two going into overtime, where anybody could actually win that game. And you were watching two teams out there battle with passion. When's the last time we saw something like that in sports? Stanley Cup playoffs. Most sports can take something from the NHL, but other sports really don't have to, because a lot of other sports actually aren't afraid to compete. NBA, I suggest you guys tear the page off in that book of exactly how the NHL is approaching everyday life and going about business. And then make that law in your league. With that being said, people, I want you guys to share. I need you guys to like and subscribe to this channel. Help this channel grow. PK Subban, honestly speaking, man, no word of a lie. If you could continue to give takes exactly like how you gave that take, 100% authentic and honest, you're going to go far in this broadcasting business, buddy. Because it's like a breath of fresh air. It's a breath of fresh air. We know that when you're talking, when most of the time, when you guys are talking about hockey, you guys are honest about it. You're giving an honest take. Because when I do actually take the time to listen to you guys during the intermissions and stuff like that, that's where I learn a lot from you guys, because you guys are talking about a sport that you guys are passionate about. You bring that same sort of passion, that same type of honesty to everything that you cover, you're going to go very far as an analyst. Once again, PK, thank you very much. It's a breath of fresh air. Double Innocence with your boy E-Dub is out. Have yourself a blessed day, people. It's a beautiful Saturday out here. The sun is shining. And on a side note, the Lakers are going to be playing the Denver Nuggets sometime this weekend. It might even be this evening. I'm very interested in that game, because I see all the LeBron Knights are running around and blowing all kind of smoke at the mere fact of the matter that the Lakers beat the Portland Trailblazers. If you take a look at exactly what the Portland Trailblazers are in the league, I guess you guys might, reconsider all that excitement. Have yourself a blessed day, people. Double Innocence with your boy E-Dub is definitely out. Deuces.